Hi guys, it's Lisa Murphy, and I couldn't pass this up. I was just gonna write a silly post about it, but I gotta say something. Um, some comic relief. So I was gone for a while, and as I always am on the road doing workshops, and when I came back to my office, three apparently new members of my staff received mail at the office. Hold on, there's a point. And if you're a super early childhood nerd, and or if you've been in this field for a while, this is going to crack you up. So John Medina got some mail. Just follow me for a minute. Thomas Newkirk got some mail, and Dr. Thomas Gordon got some mail here at Ooey Gooey Incorporated. And the reason why this is hilarious is because, let's see, John Medina wrote Brain Rules. I wrote a book report about this amazingly awesome book, and I'm going to put the link down here below for you. So apparently Dr. Medina is now working for me. I don't think he quite realizes that. Thomas Newkirk, okay, so hold on, let me back up. So Brain Rules, absolutely awesome book. Dr. Medina had me at the fact that all of his research that's in here, he doesn't include anything in his books unless it's been peer reviewed. He called himself, and forgive me, I'm paraphrasing, like an old crabby scientist, and I absolutely loved that. Again, the book report will be posted here for you if you're so inclined. I highly recommend Brain Rules, 12 Principles for Surviving and Thriving at Home and Work and School. And if you're a fan of everything that I'm out there talking about, you're going to just gobble the daylights up out of that book. I have your mail for you, Dr. Medina. Thomas Newkirk also got some mail, and Thomas Newkirk is the author of Misreading Masculinity, which if you have seen me do my workshop on books and stories and why you do circle time, you've heard me reference this man. He is a university professor. Forgive me, I'm not sure if he is still teaching or not. I had a couple huge takeaways from this book, and I'll put a link down below after I'm done rambling at you. I loved in this book, and I flipped through it to see if I actually could see a quote because I like to really know my sources. One of my takeaways from this book was being mindful as an educator of the moral hierarchy you might be unintentionally establishing in your classroom. Point being that you somehow imply that some books are good and some books are bad. He said sometimes you will end up putting yourself on the apex of that hierarchy, and to be mindful, aware of that. He also coined a phrase, I believe it was his phrase, that said be mindful also of the feminization of literacy. And I loved this, the idea as a female-dominated profession that often, and it's not intentional at all, we might unintentionally be excluding readers simply by the nature of the books that we are choosing to put in the book center. So through this, he actually gives you some tips on how to make sure that the books are all inclusive, not just for boys, but for everybody, right? So be mindful of being too black and white in regard to the gender stuff here. I'm recommending this. In fact, so much so that I'm probably going to be rereading it on the plane next week. So shout out to Thomas Newkirk. I also have your mail here for you in case you're interested. Now, Thomas Gordon, rest in peace, and this is important for us to acknowledge. Thomas Gordon has passed. He died in 2002. He wrote this classic. If you are my age, you might have been raised with this philosophy. I was. My parents read this. They took classes, and I am a product of parents who implemented the PET, Parent Effectiveness Training. When I went to my undergrad, we were required to read this. And in fact, like it still has my notes in here from undergrad. I was like, ooh, I need to read this. And you guys read this too. It's got my maiden name up at the top. And a lot of it is very person-centered. I believe Thomas was look at me like I know I'm like Tom. I believe Dr. Gordon was a student of Carl Rogers, if I'm not mistaken. And if you've heard me speak at all in the last 5, 6, 7 years, one of the things I talk about is the idea of person-centered language and reflecting language back. So sometimes when a kid says something, I don't necessarily go off on any tangent. I might just simply repeat, reflective listening. I'm going to repeat back maybe what they say. And a lot of those tidbits are in here. So if you're not familiar with Carl Rogers or person-centered communication, person-centered therapy, not that we're therapists, but some of these tools really help. And if you're not familiar with this book, I'm saying maybe it might be worth blowing the dust off and rereading. So, and at the risk of sounding snarky, in case Dr. Gordon wants to attend the Human Resource Executive Conference in Las Vegas, I've got some information for you there. So, that's it. I just thought that would be kind of interesting. I will admit, I'm a little curious as to how this might have happened. Not sure at all, and it kind of brings me down some kind of dark rabbit hole of trying to think about how it was somehow put together that they were employees of the company. But anyway, last little bit of a shout out, Thomas Newkirk. If you haven't read it, Rereading Masculinity, I'm going to put a link. John Medina, Brain Rules, going to be posting a link to his book, but then also to the book report that I've written. And for those of you who've been around in a while, maybe it's worth blowing the dust off some of the classic stuff that Dr. Gordon reminds us in PET, Parent Effectiveness Training. So that's it for right now. I hope you're having an awesome night. I'm Lisa Murphy, commonly known as the Ooey Gooey Lady, and I hope you have an amazing week. Thank you. Bye-bye.